Hey folks, welcome to Board Game Breakfast. Now you may wonder where all the games are, and that is because this week we're going to be moving into our new Dice Tower Studios, which is a fancy way for a house that we're reformatting that's going to have two recording rooms. The main living room of this house will be used as a recording studio for our live playthroughs and for top 10s and things like that. And we're going to be building a set for the background of that. Then we will have another room, which is where we will record all of our games, reviews and things like that. And that's where the wall of games is going. So some of the games are staying behind. I have a pile over here off screen for my kids that are going to stay here at home. But these shelves and the games are already packed up, and everything's going to be moved out this week. And then we'll have editing rooms and offices and things like that, and a storage room, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that's going over. So that's going to take us a week, really. It's going to take us a while to move all this over, to set everything up, get the lighting set up, make sure everything is working. So there's going to be no videos from the Dice Tower this week. And there may not even be Board Game Breakfast next week. I hope so, but there is a family emergency. My mother's quite sick that I may have to deal with. So there's a lot of different things going on, and I apologize for that, but I thought it would be better if we shut down the Dice Tower for all week long and concentrate on moving everything over. Now, I've toyed with the idea, and if you're interested, you can let me know in the comments. I've toyed with the idea. One of the first things we're going to have up at the house that we're moving to is internet, right? I've toyed with the idea of putting up a live feed of just sitting there, and you can watch us move around and set things up if you want to. But that seems extremely boring, and I don't know if anybody would watch that. So probably won't do that, but I thought you could watch us move things in, I guess, and set things up. But we'll see. So that's pretty much what's going on at the Dice Tower this week. Now, I just got back from MeepleCon, and before that, Gamma Trade Show, and before that, PAX East. And I'll be talking about all that stuff as time goes by. A lot of things that happened at Gamma. We got a lot of news and information there. If you missed it, we did some live streaming from Gamma, and the team I had there, folks, was incredible. They were professional. They were fantastic. We had Eric Summer and Sam Healy and Mandy Hutchinson and Z Garcia and Suzanne Sheldon on camera. We also had Mike Parkinson and Derek Porter and Chaz Marler were there helping out, and me and Joe Stedman were running around in the background. We recorded episode 500 of the audio Dice Tower there. So we got a lot of stuff done at PAX East. I was able to see a lot of people and kind of scout that out. The Dice Tower will be at PAX Unplugged in some form or fashion. More information on that as time goes by. And then we got a little bit of relaxing game time. We ran a Wits and Wagers game and stuff at MeepleCon. All right, there is a ton of gaming news. Let's get to it. All right, as I said, there is a ton of news. So let's get into it. Obviously, there's not all the news. There's just not enough time for that. So some smaller news has fallen to the side, or I'm just going to talk about it next week. So we're going to start by, on CNN, they reported a news story that at South by Southwest Tech, the CIA talked about how they use games. They actually designed games called Collection and Collection Deck. These are like deck building and cooperative games to train the CIA. That's an interesting thing. Board games being used to help spies. Plaid Hat Games has announced Crossfire. Now this is kind of a social deduction game. I actually had a chance to play this way back in the day when Emerson Matsuuchi showed this to me, where one person was an assassin, everyone else was trying to stop that assassin or help them in different ways. It was incredibly fun. I had a great time playing it. This is set in the Spectre Ops universe. Now, interesting, the game Crossfire, it's not that shooting marble game. It's also not Shadowrun Crossfire. It's the third game of Crossfire. I was kind of surprised they picked that name. Fantasy Flight has announced some more X-Wing stuff, a TIE Aggressor. There's a Wookiee ship now, so that's exciting, I guess. And Armada Wave 6, which has some Imperial bombers and the Hammerhead Corvette. Yay! And I'm not too surprised. I was wondering if Star Wars Armada would kind of fade out, but it looks like with Wave 6, there's still plenty to go. USAopoly announced Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle Monster Box of Monsters. Okay, so this is going to have 150 more cards for this very popular deck building game. I talked to the people at USAopoly, and they told me that this happens afterwards. So if you played the original one, there are 7 kind of chapters to it following the 7 different books. So you can play this afterwards, or there's ways to combine it in if you want, but more goodness for this deck building game. Cryptozoic has announced several games coming out soon. Ghostbusters 2, which it was kickstarted, I believe, and now will be coming out to the mass market. Hopefully it's better than the first one. Then Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards Melee at Murder Shroom Marsh, which is a sequel / can be combined with the first game, which I'm not going to pronounce, which is that very long one, which some people really like. Cool Mini or Not had a pile of announcements, but they had 3 really big announcements. First of all, a Song of Fire and Ice miniatures game. This is Game of Thrones, the miniature game. You can play the different characters from there, and so this is, I'm sure, going to have a lot of people really excited to play with this. They also hired Adrian Smith as an in-house artist. He's done art on Magic the Gathering, on their games The Others and Rising Sun, and even some different video games, including Heroes of Might and Magic and things over the years. And not only did they hire an in-house artist, but they also hired a lead game developer, Eric Lang. Have you heard of this guy? Designed that Rising Sun Kickstarter that seems to be doing okay. Eric Lang is now exclusively with Cool Mini or Not, but not just designing games for them, but working on the other designs that come in and helping develop those. So this means he's no longer working with Dice Masters. He's no longer working with other companies, although games that are already in the work, like I know he's working with something with Portal, with Ignacy Trzewiczek, that will still happen because that was already started before this happened. Then we learned some more about Ascension, Gift of the Elements. This is the 11th expansion for Ascension, I believe. This one is going to have events, which was in one of the previous ones, but these can be bought or conquered or something and then turn into heroes for you. Renegade has announced a couple games. One of them is really intriguing. That's Flip Ships. This is a co-op dexterity style game from Kane Klenko, who seems like he might as well be the in-house designer for Renegade at this point. Tasty Minstrel has posted a campaign on Micro Ventures where you can buy equity of Tasty Minstrel. So far, at the time of this, me recording this, $32,000 has been raised, and I believe it's by like 100 people or so, maybe 50 people. It wasn't that many people. And so this is something that I don't know all the details. I mean, I went and read everything, and there's a lot of information there, but there's just a lot that kind of went over my head. But essentially, from what I can tell, they are selling part of their company. Now, you don't get any voting rights when you buy these. They say that they might send out dividends, but they're not guaranteeing it. You're not guaranteed those. So as far as I can tell, the only thing you get, well, you get these little perks. It's run almost like a Kickstarter campaign, but I mean, these are not perks that you would do it like, ooh, $1,000, I get 2 free games, or I get my name in the credits for $20,000. Yeah, yay. But I think that if they ever sell the company, so it kind of looks like they're positioning themselves to be bought, I'm not sure. If they ever sell the company, then you would get part of the profits of that because you own part of Tasty Minstrel. There's a lot more information on the page about this, but there's some interesting things. First of all, because they're doing this, they're going public to some degree. So they went public with some of their numbers, which you might not know. So we found that they sold in last year, they said over 82,000 games, which means pretty much close to 82,000. And they had 1.2 million in revenue, 475,000 in gross profit, but they had a $41,597 net loss. They have 9 employees, and they pay them $510,000, I think. I'm actually not sure exactly all the different numbers here, but if you look at that, that's 82,000 games. Now, I don't know where you think Tasty Minstrel lies, but they have several games. 82,000 games is a lot, but there's still many other companies. I know a lot of the numbers that different companies do who do more than that. They had to talk about their competitors here in this Micro Ventures thing. So, it's kind of set up like a Kickstarter campaign. And so they mentioned Asmodee and Simon, Stronghold Games, and AEG. So I guess they're competitors in some sense of form. I mean, 2 of those are big enough to swallow Tasty Minstrel 20 times over. But I don't know. It's just a curious thing. I don't know if it's a good thing. It seems like it's really good for Tasty Minstrel. They're getting money. They aren't giving away that much. Is it good for the person who's doing it? I mean, if you support them, I'm going to look into this more and talk about this more as time goes by. I'm not for or against this at all in any sort of fashion. I'm just kind of interested to see what will happen as this continues. All right, back to the news. Games Workshop. Oh, man, the news just keeps landing, right? First of all, they announced Shadow War Armageddon, which is essentially a rebooted Necromunda. Yay! For people who like that, I want to reboot it more time, but I'm sure that will come. They also talked about some new armies for Age of Sigmar, including the dwarves, which made Sam very happy. But the big news from Games Workshop is that they are allowing in America online sales again. This is something they've canceled, I think, like a decade ago. So this will be intriguing. Now, of course, there's a lot of stipulations. I went and read them. You have to have an actual store and put the product in the store. Yet the most you can have off is 15%. You're not allowed to use pictures from the website. You got to take your own pictures. I don't know why they have that rule. They don't want people showing off their stuff. Okay, whatever. So there's a lot of stipulations. So I don't know how this is going to make a huge change, but it is kind of big news. Smirk and Dagger has announced Paramedics Clear, which is about saving people as paramedics, which is very much the opposite of everything Smirk and Dagger has ever done, because their games are usually mean. Hasbro has announced Drop Mix. Now this looks like a half board game, half technology thing where you're sliding cards in and mixing different beats from different songs together. I'm not actually sure how the game is played, but it is a technological type thing where you're sliding cards in and listening to music. We know more about the Next Time Stories expansion, Lumen Fide, I think that's how you pronounce it, which means Light of the Faith, but it takes place in 15th century Spain, and you are going back. There's some problems with the Christians versus the Moors battles that are happening there, and something supernatural. That's all we know. Then we have Cryptozoic has announced I mentioned some games they did earlier, but they also have an organized play kit for DC Deck Builder. So you'll be able to get some promo cards and a play mat and things like that. So I'm sure that will make a lot of people happy. Bezier Games has announced Palace of Mad King Ludwig. Now, and this is one of those things I wish companies would do. It has nothing to do with the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which means I will now have to actually say Castle of Mad King Ludwig and Palaces of Mad King Ludwig instead of just saying Mad King Ludwig, which I would say previously. This is a completely different game. This game, you're all building the same palace. Looks almost like Carcassonne and you're putting tiles down. It's not a cooperative game, but you're putting tiles down, and that's pretty much all I know. But I'm excited about it, and the box cover art is stellar. IDW has announced a few new games, Ray Guns and Rocket Ships, a retro space game, King of the Creepies, in which you're fighting creepies, which some people do every day when they walk down the street, and arcade classic games, games based on Asteroid, Centipede, and Missile Command. Yeah, that sounds cool. But it does sound like a cash tie-in. Then I see the designer is John Gilmore. He's one of the designers of Dead of Winter. IDW has really been bringing their game lately in some of the games that they've been producing, so I'm very excited about that. WizKids has announced a new Dungeons & Dragons adventure game, or they're teasing towards it. We don't know what it is. I was about to point to them on my shelf and realize they're not here, but Wrath of Ashardlan and all that nonsense. They all work together, Castle Ravenloft and Legends of Drizzt, so another one's coming. Yeah. I showed off last week on the live stream the new expansion for Sheriff of Nottingham, Merry Men, which has several different modules. I will go over that in more detail once we start up our recording studio again. And Yellow announced Arena for the Gods, in which you're going to get on, you have different fantasy creatures, it looks like fighting each other, but they're riding different mounts. So kind of a new spin on King of Tokyo. I'm not really sure, but it looks exciting. Whew, that was a ton of news. Could there be anything left? Let's find out from Suzanne.
Happy breakfast, everybody. I am filming live from the floor of Gamma here in Las Vegas. It's been a couple of weeks since we've talked about crowdfunding games, so I'm going to try to fit in as many as I can today. Red Raven Games is revisiting Empires of the Void. Discover old civilizations, transport leaders, and rescue worlds from invasion in this space empire game. You can conquer or befriend aliens, each choice providing a different benefit, and it shapes the game. Action and event cards provide tough choices, powerful combos, and enhances the narrative spirit of the game. And overall, Empires of the Void 2 was designed to be highly interactive. This is essentially Red Raven's take on a 4X game and is one of their heavier games. But it, of course, still features gorgeous art by designer Ryan Lockett, and unlike other Red Raven games, Empires of the Void 2 has plastic pieces in the form of the unlocked stretch goal of the world ships. The deluxe edition that's being kickstarted will also include custom metal coins. You can get Empires of the Void 2 Deluxe for a pledge of $60 plus shipping. Get Off My Land is a game about close quarter farming played through action selection, hand management, and tile laying. Players will clear land, claim land, plant crops or pasture animals, and harvest for profit. But as a competitive land management game, players can actually borrow the use of opponents' land and even potentially take it over. The game plays over 1 year of seasons, and I've actually had the chance to playtest this in an earlier iteration and was pretty pleased with the game tension, especially around managing the different land cards, crops, and livestock. You can even get lucky and hit oil as you expand. Get Off My Land features large land tiles and cards that have kind of a fun top-down art look, and you can get a copy for $55 Canadian plus shipping. Power Ships is a quick space racing game that is an update of the long out-of-print koala game Power Boats. This is a pretty straightforward racing game with the use of three-sided dice, yep, I said three-sided, setting the ship's speed and distance. As you play through rounds, you can add or remove a die to your speedometer and re-roll or keep existing dice, making dice management to mitigate the odds of a roll the key mechanism in the game. The modular board means there's literally millions of different possible race courses. Different board elements impact your direction and speed as you race to reach 3 different buoys before you head to the finish line. Overall, Power Ships is a light but tactically engaging race game for 2 to 6 players, comes with 20 three-sided die, and can be had for a pledge of €28 plus shipping. Solstice is a quick card game of drafting and deception from the designer of Cry Havoc, Grant Rodiak. Inspired by the world of Dune, players are different factions vying for control of an interstellar empire. Players will draft different characters and then assign them to planets face down and then selectively share info based on the rules of the cards. So there's a bit of bluffing and deduction involved, all pulling off that Dune intrigue inspiration. Because while the draft is critical, deducing where your cards are being played by opponents is even more important. Along with the character cards, there's also fortune, deception, and destruction events that get drafted that will mess with a planet's resolution. The basic game is a simple deck of cards featuring lovely illustrations, but the deluxe edition includes laser-etched wooden tokens. If you want to jump in on Solstice, you'll want to do so quickly since the campaign ends early March 24th. You can get the base game for $18 or the fancy deluxe edition for a pledge of $35. Long Live the Queen is a 2-player card game originally published in Japan but getting a wider release from Ludi Creations. In Long Live the Queen, players are trying to get their preferred princess to the throne as the queen. Players have synchronous decks and they secretly lay out their cards in a line on their side of the table. A dice roll determines which character is revealed or activated, and then 2 cards can be swapped in line. And each character has an ability, and using that ability is powerful, but timing is critical as the cards face off, shift around, and get knocked out. In an uncommon move, you can get either the original anime-style version or the updated Dieselpunk edition set in the world of Ludi's board game Crisis. Both versions have the same gameplay, but the art and some of the details like character names are different. You could get either version of Long Live the Queen for a pledge of $19 plus shipping. And of course, last but not least, with over 22,000 backers, Rising Sun, designed by Eric Lang, is the next ginormous Cool Mini or Not hit game. Set in a mythical and mystical feudal Japan, Rising Sun has different factions vying for control. You'll be expanding out, laying claim, taking resources, and building up your army. Largely an area control game, but with a lot of diplomacy involved, players should be prepared to make alliances and then break them because there will be backstabbing. The minis are, of course, fantastically sculpted, and there are going to be a lot of them. Like all CMON minigames, Rising Sun features a ton of stretch goals, exclusives, and for this campaign, there's a single $100 pledge level to get it all, plus shipping, of course.
Okay, that's all I've got for you this episode. Hopefully something caught your eye. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week. Hi guys, today is March 15th and that means that in the Netherlands it's the day of the general elections. So it's time for me to leave Germany and drive to Holland and vote. The people's mission today is vote to see who will fill the 150 seats in the House of Representatives. Join me as I cast my vote at my old high school. This election counts 28 different parties, and every party has a list with candidates. A single vote can be placed on any one candidate. And if a candidate receives enough preference votes, they can leapfrog and claim a seat in the House. It is nearly impossible for one of the parties to receive more than 50% of all votes. So after the election, the biggest party will look for other parties to make a coalition. And together they will shape the government of the Netherlands. This week I'm playing a game that is all about finding majorities, but I chose for a fantasy setting. This week I am playing The Resistance Avalon. In The Resistance Avalon, each player secretly receives a role at the King's Court. They are either fighting for good and join Merlin, or they join the evil ways of Mordred. After setup, all the evil players know each other, and Merlin knows who all the evil players are. Every round, a different leader proposes a team to go on a virtual quest, and then everyone gets to vote if they think this is a good team to go on this mission. If the group can decide on a team to go for 5 times, then the quest automatically fails. But if the team is chosen, all the team members choose secretly to either let this quest fail or let it succeed. If there are 3 failed quests, then the bad guys win. If there are 3 quests that succeed, the good guys win. But the bad guys still have one last chance. If they are able to figure out which of the other players is Merlin, they get to assassinate him and still get a victory. The Resistance Avalon is a great social deduction game and my personal favorite. There is no player elimination like you would have in other games like Werewolf. There are optional character cards to spice it even more up, and I highly recommend it. It's a 5 to 10 player game. Check it out. The Resistance Avalon.
Chaz Marler from Paradise here, and I just got back from waking up after sleeping for about 14 hours, after returning from the Gamma trade show in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, even though that the trade show for Gamma, the Game Manufacturers Association, isn't a traditional board game convention, as it's only open to publishers, retailers, and the press, it's still seen by many in the industry as the unofficial start to the annual board game convention season. It's also the industry event where many publishers publicly unveil, for the first time, the games that they'll be releasing that year. So, what does a trip to the Gamma trade show look like? Well, I had the privilege of attending as a part of the Dice Tower crew, where we produced video interviews with 73 of the 148 publishers who were present there. And that comes out to doing a smidge more than an average of one interview every 20 minutes for 8 hours a day for 3 days straight. But simply cramming every single minute of your day with board game industry research isn't all that Gamma is about. It's also about cramming your nights full of it too. 2 separate evenings, publishers set up tables and were teaching games that they brought to the convention to demonstrate. It was a really great opportunity to survey many of this year's up-and-coming games en masse and even playtest a few of them. There were also a variety of seminars that you could attend, including one that I got to go to, hosted by Rodney Smith of Watch It Played, Tom Vassell of the Dice Tower, and Eric Martin of BoardGameGeek.com, which discussed the potential impact that hobby-specific social media can have on board game retail outlets. And while that topic may sound a bit specific in its scope, I found their presentation to be both interesting and informative. And also, I am just now realizing that the highlight of the week I spent in Las Vegas was a PowerPoint presentation about online board game marketing. Man, this hobby's great. So there's kind of an overview of what it's like to attend the Gamma Trade Show. Keep an eye on the Dice Tower and Pair of Dice Paradise over the coming days for more videos covering the games, the news, and the announcements from Gamma.
So, coming from Penny Arcade and Gamma and MeepleCon, I thought I did this last year after Gamma, talk a little bit about the state of the gaming industry. And I believe I said this last year, but generally, I think the state of the gaming industry is extremely strong. One of the things I do at Gamma is I have a lot of different meetings. I talk to as many different publishers as I possibly can and feel them out to see where they think we are. And you know what? For the most part, it's very positive. Now, last year at Gamma, the big news was that Asmodee had dropped that new pricing thing. Many of you know about that. Many of you were upset about that. So at the Asmodee keynote, they did address that. They talked about this. They said that parts of it were going very well and parts of it still need a little bit of work, which means parts of it aren't going very well. But that they're still planning to continue this, that they feel very strongly about this. And I haven't heard a lot about this in recent days, so I'm not really sure how much this has affected the market as a whole. Asmodee, of course, has picked up a lot of games over the past year and a lot of companies. And so do they have any kind of competition? Well, it looks like the main competition for Asmodee in America right now would be Cool Mini or Not, or more specifically, Cool Mini or Not going up against Fantasy Flight. Both of them have miniature games. Fantasy Flight is about to release Rune Wars, which is an obvious competitor to Warhammer Fantasy. And then we have the Song of Fire and Ice, which is coming from Cool Mini or Not. Now, this is, I think, great, right? I'm not a huge miniatures guy, but having 3 good, solid fantasy miniatures game can only be good for us, the consumers, because these guys are going to compete with each other and miniatures. And, if you don't like putting miniatures together, the Fantasy Flight / CMON miniatures are really going to be exciting in that regard. So I'm kind of pumped about that. But Cool Mini or Not, or CMON, I'm sorry, I keep calling them Cool Mini or Not, CMON, is really kind of growing. I mean, look, they just got Eric Lang, who is easily the hottest game designer out there right now. They got artists, they're picking things up, they're consolidating. And I've been assured that they are not planning to be bought by Asmodee anytime soon. So this is kind of interesting. We see these powerhouses coming out, but they're not the only ones. Folks, I was wondering about AEG, right? AEG sold L5R, Legends of Five Rings off to Fantasy Flight, and I was like, well, where are they right now? Sure, they still got Smash Up and Love Letter, but looking at the slate of games that they have coming out, they seem to be just some really neat stuff coming from them. And Yellow, of course, still producing good games, and I saw the new maps for Terraforming Mars from Stronghold Games. There's just some really exciting things. And we're starting to see Kickstarter stuff land more solidly. Of course, we're seeing a lot of Kickstarter stuff fizzle and burn. That happens. Gloomhaven did amazing, right? But was instantly sold out everywhere. No one can buy it. It's very expensive. But a reprint of that will be coming later on. But things like Santorini, we're seeing great stuff from Pandasaurus and IDW. USAopoly, you may not like all their games that they put out. They make a lot of weird versions of Monopoly, but that can also work in the hobbies game's favor. I took a look at Disney Codenames, for example. Looks great. I can't wait to play that. It just showed different screenshots. I couldn't take any pictures, no photography allowed, but showed a bunch of screenshots of the different, animated movies. And that just looked like a really fun thing to play with Codenames, because I've seen all those movies, as pretty much every parent has, right? And so that's going to bring a new market into Codenames. They might play that and then go say, oh, let's find another Codenames, let's go buy another party game or something. So I'm just really pumped about that. So talking to all these different publishers and designers there, everyone was just so excited. Everyone was in such a good mood. Now, Gamma Trade Show is essentially the beginning of the hobby game year. There's New York Toy Fair, Nuremberg, and the Cannes. So there's 3 other festivals that come beforehand. But this is the first big one in America, although New York Toy Fair is obviously bigger, but not so much for the hobby game market. And so we're seeing, getting ready for the year, what's coming out this year. And I'm just pleased as punch about it. Seeing a new slate of games coming from WizKids, Just seeing these companies just really wondering what's going to happen. I also was at PAX East, right? So I was interested in that, to see the marriage or the crossover between video games and board games. And yes, I was told there's a big board game presence at PAX. There most definitely is a big board game presence at PAX, to the point where when they shut down the hall at 6 o'clock, the video game hall, they leave the board game section open, and it's just packed, having a hard time finding a table there. And everyone, including most of the publishers I talked to, are very excited about PAX Unplugged. So if you're kind of wavering on should I go to PAX Unplugged or not, really consider it, because it's going to be a big convention, I think. They're talking about 10,000 people showing up there. Many, if not all, the major publishers will be there. That's a really exciting thing, and I think it's great for the hobby. I really think as a hobby we need to be encouraging this younger audience, and I like the younger audience because they're very diverse. They're all over the place in their taste of games. Of course, obviously they got party games and short games, but it doesn't matter. It's just exciting to see that growing. So that is where I'm looking at the state of gaming at this point in time. I can't wait to tell you, to see where this goes. I can't wait to see Origins and Gen Con and Essen and all the conventions this year, and to see how these companies grow and expand as time goes by. Tell me what you think in the comments. Where do you think the game industry is going? Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell. Let's keep moving.
Hey, this is Mike with the Board Game Makeover. I'm back from GAMA, the trade show down in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it was a complete success. Sure, I was down there helping the Dice Tower do all their interviews with all the new publishers, designers, showing off their games, what's coming out, some big announcements like with Eric Lang. Yeah, that's fine. But why was I really there? I was there to infiltrate the board gaming industry so I could get a good idea of all the games that are coming out and which ones are ideal candidates for a board game makeover. Let me show you some of the video I took and you'll get a good idea of what I did. I'm excited because behind these doors, the Dice Tower crew is interviewing all of the publishers who are making these games that are coming out this year or have already come out. And it's an exciting time because I get to watch these professionals at work. And I get to work with all of them doing whatever they need. So mostly, making coffee, getting all kinds of soda pop, things like that. But whatever they need is what I'm here for. So tonight there's a game night down in one of the banquet rooms, and we're going to be able to get a close-up view of some of these games that these manufacturers and publishers and designers are coming out with. I was able to get around the GAMA trade show without being noticed as a spy, but more as a contributor to the Dice Tower. So I hope you saw some things that were new to you, and I know I saw some things that are going to be great for a board game makeover. Thanks for watching the Board Game Makeover. I'll see you next time.
Hi guys, my name is Niels from Cyril's Brettspiele, and today in the best and the worst we are talking about Egypt. We are talking about Imhotep, a game from Cosmos, and we all know it was nominated for Spiel des Jahres award, so let's take a look for my personal best and worst. My favorite part on Imhotep is that you have technically exactly 3 decisions to make. Either you take stones out of the general supply into your personal supply, or you load up a stone on a boat, or when the boat is full, you can ship the boat and unload it and do the action here. So only 3 options, sometimes a 4th when you have a special card anyway, but that is brilliant. And it feels really good with just 4 options you have, with just 4 choices to play a game. That feels great. What is the bad thing on Imhotep? And the bad one is technically stakes are so high when a game is nominated for Spiel des Jahres award. And this is, for me, for Imhotep, it was a curse to get this nomination. Because I expected so much, I expected such a great game. And honestly, I played Imhotep probably 7, 8, 9 times max. And it doesn't feel like I wanted to play it again. Because there's not enough meat on the game, so the decisions are limited, which is great to teach the game and start and get into the game, but it's not as deep as I wish it could be. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week here on the Dice Tower Board Game Breakfast. And then they have another game. This time it was Imhotep from Cosmos for the best and the worst, and next time, see you. Bye bye.
Hello, my name's Dan and this is Cora, and we're here today to talk to you about board games for children of around 5 and under. And today we're going to talk about this massive box. Oh, what's this one called, Cora?
Expedition Dino.
Expedition Dino. Close enough. Expedition Dino is a dexterity game where the players are paleontologists competing to unearth the most dinosaur bones from an archaeological dig. Much like real archaeological digs, the fossils come in big, chunky square bricks that are set up in a sort of tower. The players take it in turn to roll a dice and find out if they'll be excavating using a hammer and chisel, a hammer on its own, or rummaging around in a pile of discarded earth, hoping to find something others have missed. Inside the Tower of Cubes is hidden a big cardboard dinosaur, and players need to be careful that their actions don't knock him over, because as soon as he topples, that's the end of the game. So, Cora, do you like Expedition Dino?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
Then.
You like the hammer and chisel? Yeah. These are cool. What else do you like about it?
The dinosaur falling over.
Yep, dinosaur falling over. That's pretty cool as well. It's a really nice game. The components are perhaps nicer than the actual game is, if I'm brutally honest. Sometimes younger children can struggle to use the chisel. And it, sometimes, but that's just part of the game, I suppose. So we give Expedition Dino to Tyrannosaurus Rex thumbs up.
Well, howdy, board game breakfastitos, breakfast. Hey, you. This week I had the good fortune to go to Aircon. New mug. And while I was there was a lot of stuff to do and to see, but most importantly, to buy. Which showed in all its horror my obsession with anything called a bring and buy sale, a yard sale, a garage sale, a car boot sale, a brick and brack fair. I am a fiend for a bring and buy, and I will go in there throwing more elbows than a Christina Aguilera video. That is the dumbest reference I've ever made, and I went on for 3 weeks about a chimp-themed restaurant. I'm alright about it. Needless to say, my ideal job would be working on that TV show American Pickers. You know where they go to, like, old bar... It's really not important. While I was there, in the thick of it all, I realised that the best thing about a convention isn't the bring and buy, or the things to see, or the contests, or the shows, or even the games, kinda. I'm going to get a bit soppy, and I don't want to, but I absolutely am. Because I personally find it so easy to forget that this is a social hobby, and what makes conventions and what makes games fun is other people. And I don't like other people at the best of times. But here we are. Even the best game in the world, which is Chinatown, I love you, is kind of useless without other people. And that's not to denigrate people who play solo at all, because I play solo a lot and it's brilliant. But there is something about playing with people that is pretty darn tootin'. So even though it is hard for me to say, I would like to say thank you to all those wonderful people. With the following exceptions, of course. People I hate.
And that's it for another Board Game Breakfast. And that's it for videos for a while. And I apologize, but there are other great video content producers out there, folks. Go watch It Played all week, okay? There's stuff to see, and we have a huge backlog of catalogs. If you have not watched our live Gamma coverage last week, check it out. Now's the time to do so. There might be stuff that pops up throughout the week. I'm not going to promise there will be no videos. That'd be really hard for us to do. But you never know. Hey, folks, it's been great. We want to thank you for this opportunity to empty this and move to a place where I think we can really grow and expand. Of course, life gets in the way. Things are happening. A lot of stuff going on, of course. But you know what? We'll get past that. We'll move on and do the best we can. Until next time, this has been Board Game Breakfast. I'm Tom Vassell. We'll see you.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.